Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. This week on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, I sit down with Dr. Kelly Bullock Doherty. She is the CEO of Transitions Educational Consulting. Yes, she's a passionate educator with over 18 years of experience. Dr. Kelly tells me that she has had to leverage disappointment in her career to put her into the driver's seat to move forward in this new chapter in her career. It's an insightful, inspiring interview. You don't want to miss it. So let's go right over and meet Dr. Kelly. So Dr. Kelly, before we started recording this interview, we were having this wonderful conversation about the driver's seat. And I just love what you were saying. So do me a favor and let's catch our listeners up. What was the impetus that drove you to the driver's seat in your career?
So as I was saying, I was in education for 18 years. 2.5 of those years, I was a school improvement coach where I was able to work with teachers. And that's where I really found my passion. That's what I knew I wanted to do. And I talked about, wanting to work with teachers and train teachers. I was working on my doctorate degree. I did my doctoral study in the district I was working in. So administrators, teachers, they all knew what my goals were, right? So I wanted to work with teachers. I wanted to work in the board office with administrators and work to help teachers increase their instructional practices and just become more effective leaders in the classroom. And so I feel, in my opinion, that I was led to believe there was a place for me when I finished my doctorate. And I expected that. And so maybe a portion, I take responsibility for expecting, something like that to happen. But when I finished, I was led to believe, well, I can't wait to work with you at the board office, and I can't wait for you to do this, and we really need you as a leader here. And when that didn't happen, I was looked over twice, and led to believe that it was, I was made to feel like, well, we still value you, but only quietly in the way that we want to use you, right? And that hurt me because I worked hard. I did everything I was asked to do. I took the trainings I was supposed to take. I led committees that I was asked to lead because we value your leadership. And quite honestly, Simone, I really feel after leaving and reflecting that I was perhaps their token experiment, right? We have minority leaders in this district. She has a doctorate, but we need her in the classroom. That's where we need her. And there came a time by 2015. Now I finished my degree in 2013. By 2015, I am filled with resent and anger and just, I am not where I want to be, first of all, and not where I can do the best, have the best impact. So by 2015, it was getting harder to get up to go to work. I wasn't happy going to work. I wasn't, I wasn't effective in the classroom. And this is from my own personal reflection. I really feel that I began to become more ineffective. And once I become ineffective as a leader, what are my students gaining? What are my colleagues getting from me? They're not getting the best of me. And so at the end of the 2018-2019 school year, I submitted my resignation.
And now, did you have a plan? I think let me say this before you answer. What's interesting about the story is it makes me think about my own journey and the fact that there always comes a turning point, a point where you need to decide enough is enough. I'm going to chart my path. I'm going to be hands-on. I'm going to get into the driver's seat. And it sounds like when you handed your letter of resignation in, that was that turning point where you took the reins back to say, all right, enough is enough. I know I can do better than this. I have a greater impact to the world, and this is not it. So what's going on for you once you hand in that resignation? And did you have a plan that you were going to do X, Y, Z? What was going on?
So I'd already established my business in 2014. I'd been doing some speaking here and there, but just really didn't have the time to build, and really put attention into, into my business. When I submitted that letter, it was the most exhilarating thing that I had done in 18 years. It was me taking my voice back, because while I was attending conferences and speaking, I was doing it still at a restricted level. I was given permission to go to these conferences, but you have to make sure that you talk about our district. You have to make sure you say this. And when I give this resignation, I'm getting my voice back. I'm gaining my opinions back. I am no longer, my thoughts and my values and my opinions are no longer restricted. And it was the biggest weight lifted. Did I have a plan? In my mind, I had a plan. I did not, admittedly, implement it in the best way. I could have spent more time on it, but I was so caught up. I was trapped in my unhappiness, and I had to get out. I had to get out. And so I had a business, and I had some clients, and I had some connections that I was able to still work with, while I am working to create a stronger plan to grow my business. But I'm doing it my way.
Yeah, there's
doing
something
it
in
in
the
my
beauty
time.
of that, isn't it? There's
Yes.
something about being all, all hands-on and doing things that you want to do, and it's such I think it's such a growth experience to run your own business where, yes, you're going to mess up. Yes, you don't have to have that solid business plan figured out day one, which I think traps some of us, where it's like, I don't have the plan, I don't have X, Y, Z. So
Absolutely.
we hold off on going after our dreams. And I think
Absolutely.
what's great is that you went after your dreams and you're figuring it out. And I relate to that, because I've been figuring things out since I launched my business in 2015. And it is most certainly a journey.
It definitely is. And I agree with you. I'd been so guarded, I felt like I couldn't think about my business in its entirety, because I still was bound by these restrictions and responsibilities to my district. And now that I'm not there anymore, now that I've, chosen to leave that environment. And don't get me wrong, I've gained great experience there. and I've made long-lasting friendships there. But when it came to the point that my happiness was at stake, my mental health was at stake, that was the priority. And I couldn't focus on a defined plan until I found my happiness.
Mm,
I
mm,
couldn't.
mm. So what would you say, knowing what you know after your 18 years and now working for yourself as well, is your formula for successfully owning your career?
Absolutely. I truly believe what you're passionate about and your purpose combined drives you to your success. You know, what you're if what you're doing is making you happy, that's your passion, right? That's what makes you get up in the morning. I would struggle to get up. What am I going to wear today? Oh, I got to go 28 kids in the classroom, and struggle at 7:30. I am up at 5:30 in the morning, and I work until sometimes 9 o'clock at night. It's because I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I'm passionate about, and I feel like I have a purpose, and I know that what I am doing is going to impact teachers and impact change in teaching, learning, and in the classroom. And so I think that passion and purpose are what really motivate you to be successful in whatever you choose to do.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. Now, how has risk, you talked about stepping out on faith.
Absolutely.
How does risk fit into the picture for you, and how do you look at taking a risk now? You took a risk to bet on yourself, bet on your
Absolutely.
happiness. Talk to me about how you have danced with risk over the years and how you dance with it now.
I absolutely. I feel like if I hadn't taken a risk, I would not be here. I would not be here. And so, I think that when you make a decision to take a risk, you're choosing to overcome a fear, right? And so the reason that we don't take risks is because we're afraid. We're afraid of failing. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of, not having the plan right the first time. Um, but that is all part of the process. That's how it's the trial and error and the failing is how you learn to get it right.
Mm,
So I think taking risks is vital to being an entrepreneur, being in the driver's seat. Every time we get in the car and drive, we are taking a risk, but we do it because we have to get things done.
mm,
So every day, I'm taking a new risk, meeting new people, taking a risk to learn new things. And I may not get it right, but in the end, it's going, I'm going to grow. I'm going to grow from what I failed at. I'm going to grow from what I learned. And it's going to just make me more effective and more successful. So you have to
wonderful.
take risks. You
Yeah.
have to just step out and take the risk and, let the chips fall where they may, and then pick them up and
Yeah.
learn from it.
Yeah, some of the listeners may have heard me talk about one of my favorite books, which is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by
Mm,
late Dr. Susan Jeffers. And
mhm.
when I'm hearing you talk about, stepping out on faith and learning and growing and continue to grow from that, it's so, so important to do that. Have there been any books or resources that you have found to be helpful to you on this journey of being in the driver's seat for your career?
Yeah, so I really have surrounded myself with other entrepreneurs um, who have taught me about some of the things they failed at, some of the risks they've taken that really helped them learn. So I've really been drawn to other entrepreneurs. um, I've this first year working in my business full time has been committed to networking and connection. So um, I look for small businesses that help other small businesses. um, other women entrepreneurs that really can give me sound advice for next steps, or even how to get past obstacles, right? So I've been working with the Women's Business Center here in Cleveland, and they have amazing women that, you know, kind of help you work through some of the challenges that I've been facing. So that's really been my main resource at this point. Just other people, other entrepreneurs, organizations that really focus on helping small businesses grow.
Yeah, I found that to be helpful as another woman entrepreneur. In our town, we have the Women's Business Development Center, which is a resource. SCORE is a resource, score.org,
Yes,
as well as the Women Business Enterprise National Council if you want to get
yeah,
your certified. There's so many resources available. And, you know, whether you're in corporate or you're an entrepreneur, you have to make time to learn to be
yes,
successful in your career. What I loved about our conversation is you talking about pouring back into yourself, going to the doctorate level to really grow, to be effective. Well, as an entrepreneur, you have to do the same. You have to learn how to run a business. You have to learn how to be a CEO, because it
yeah,
does not just come naturally where you just fall into the position and you automatically know about cash flow and, you know, you think as a strategic leader, et cetera, et cetera. You have to learn how to do those things to be successful.
absolutely. There's so many things that that go into being an entrepreneur that I had no idea. You know, I had the idea, but all the other things, you know, outside of that, running the business, oh, it's been a learning experience for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, there's a lot of groups on whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever social
Absolutely.
media platform. I have found that even during these in this new 2020 time, that I've made a lot of friends online, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, people that I don't know face to face, but we've built relationships and are provide resources to each other. I think when I was in the corporate space, I was afraid of networking. You know, I don't know about you, Dr. Kelly, but I wasn't putting myself out there in terms of networking. I was more head down, get my work done because the result's going to come. And when
Yes.
that result didn't come, I was pretty upset about that. And
Yeah, like what's happening? Yeah, absolutely. And that's back to, you know, taking the risk because, you know, when you're running a classroom, you know, that's your space. So, but when you're an entrepreneur, you can't just be in your space. You have to people need to know who you are. In
yes.
order for that to happen, you have to network. So that is absolutely a risk and a challenge that, you know, you have to get through. But definitely, I agree.
Well, as we begin to wrap up the interview, any parting words that you can give to our audience from a career standpoint?
Um, you know, I really truly believe that your happiness um, can drive you. You know, I believe that, you know, I have a book that I'm working on publishing, and it's about my journey to greatness. And it really just talks about working through obstacles and challenges to find out who you are. And I highlight some things that I had to change about myself, because if I am not happy and I am not effective and I am not whole, I cannot be great for anyone. So I have to be great for myself. And so I would just encourage people to really look within, be transparent about some of the challenges that you're facing, and think about you know, ways that you can get around it, because whether it's, you know, it's something negative or positive, there's a lesson in everything, and there's something that you can gain to become better, right? So I think that, you know, as people begin to get in their own driver's seat, be clear about who they are, what they're passionate about, what they want, have a clear plan for how to grow. And at the end of it all, it's about your passion, your purpose, your happiness. Be happy in your own space. And don't allow anyone to define who you are or dictate what your happiness should look like. That's what I would tell people.
Well said. Well said. Well, I am so appreciative of you being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Tell our listeners how they can stay connected with you, Dr. Kelly.
So they can reach me, they can find me at my website, which is www.transitionseducates.com. And that's connected to all my social media and my email. So that's the best way that they can reach me.
Thank you so much. Again,
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It is my hope that you enjoyed today's episode. You can check out the show notes for this episode on the SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org website by clicking the podcast menu. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.